So many of you have asked, and I have finally done it. For my popular crossback apron pattern, I have created a reversible apron. So it's using the same linen blend fabric that I used for my regular crossover apron, and I just added some of the fabric and I made it reversible. So basically I have these pockets here, and then I have these patterned pockets on the other side. It's super cute. You can use whatever fabrics you like, and in this video I'm going to walk you through all of the steps so that you can make your own reversible crossback apron. Now a quick note, and if you hear some scratching, that's always my dog coming into the kitchen trying to help my video recording. For the fabrics, you always want to wash them on warm, and if they come out really wrinkly, you want to hot iron them before you actually sew with them, because the last thing you want is you sew your apron, you wash them, they have a different shrinkage, and then it's going to be all warped. So that's the first thing I always like to do. As far as the linen blend fabric that I used, I had a lot of leftover fabric from my previous aprons, and just because I guess I'm a little bit of a fabric hoarder, but this is actually a tablecloth from IKEA. However, when I went on the website to find the link to leave you guys, I realized that they must have discontinued this particular one. It used to be called Sourdough, and they have another 100% linen tablecloth now. I'm assuming it would work the same as this one, but I haven't seen it in real life. I haven't touched it. But since you're doubling your fabrics, you can even use just any 100% cotton. I always like cotton because it's so easy to work with, and it doesn't have a lot of move and give, because you don't want to use two fabrics. Well, one is a little bit elastic, like a jersey, that moves and stretches in various ways, and then have a cotton. So even though I've used a linen blend here for one side and 100% cotton, this spring sunflower print, I do recommend that you actually use the same kind of fabric for both sides. So for the pattern, you have two choices. I have a free, it's really more of a concept pattern that you can download, and all the links are in the show notes for this video. And basically it gives you the outline and what this pattern is supposed to look like, and then you draw it out on parchment paper or pattern paper or even newspaper, or you can stitch together letter size sheets of paper and cut it out that way. Just remember that this is a very forgiving pattern. It doesn't really matter how deep the armhole is, how deep the neckline is, how wide this is. My pattern is always ideal for small to medium sizes, but you can totally customize it to make it fit for yourself. If that is a little bit more than you want to take on, and you like more exact measurements or something real concrete to go by, I also, and the link is up here and in the show notes, I have a fully downloadable and printable pattern that you can purchase. It's not expensive, but it might just take the guesswork out of it. It might just be what you need. So whichever one you use, let's get sewing. Once I've cut out my pattern, I fold my fabric in half and place the pattern on top of the fabric with the center line of the front piece, basically that starts at the bottom of the neckline. And then I like to always pin it so there's no movement. And then I cut out my fabric. Next, I lay the fabric on top of the other fabric, and you can either pin it or just directly cut it out from underneath. And it doesn't matter if there's just a slight bit of variation, because you'll see later how that doesn't matter. There's quite a bit of fabric in the armholes here. I like to be super frugal, and I like to cut my pockets out from that piece of fabric. If you're actually using pockets, some people like them, some people don't need the front pockets, so that's entirely up to you. Now I use a zigzag stitch and go around all 4 of the pockets just to make sure that there's no fabric fraying. And then I use the curved line only to fold in, and I just fold it in once because there's a zigzag stitch and there's no fraying. So first I like to pin it. If you like, you can always also iron it. And then I'm only sewing the curved line from all the 4 pockets. Then I fold over all the other 4 sides of my 4 pockets, and again I pin them into place. You can touch them up with a hot iron to make them a little flatter and a little bit more even. So all 4 pockets. Now for attaching the pockets to find the best place, you can always try on your apron and just get an idea of where the apron would be and how far down you want the pockets to be. I'm using 12.5 inches from the center of the neckline with the seam allowance, but you may have another placement that works better for you. And then I have basically about 2 inches in the middle, so it's 1 inch or maybe 1.5 inches from the center line. I like to pin the pockets into place and sew them on, but not the curved line because that's your opening for your hands, but the other 4 straight sides. And I like to go as close to the edge as possible and just use a straight stitch. I've done that for all 4 pockets on both sides. Always make sure that you attach them the right way so that the curved line is facing out and away from the midline and not in. And then I lay the 2 pieces on top of each other with the right sides facing, and I pin them all the way around except for a small 4 to 8 inch opening at the bottom of the apron. I sew them together with about 1/2 inch of a seam allowance. And then if you like, you can always go around with a zigzag stitch or use a serger. I don't necessarily feel that's necessary because we will be using a top stitch in a moment. And now that you have sewn those 2 pieces, the main pieces, the body pieces together, you have this opening at the bottom, and you just turn the whole thing right sides out. Sometimes you need to use a pen or a pencil or something that's somewhat pointy but not sharp. It's not going to cut into your fabric, to make the corners of the 4 straps nice and even. To make it even easier, I like to iron all the edges because they lay better, and I also can see where I'm going to be sewing, so that ideally the front piece is not showing the fabric of the back piece and vice versa. Using a straight stitch, I sew those together with basically a top stitch, and I try to do that as close to the edge as possible. And I'm also going to be closing the hole at the bottom of the front piece of the apron. You can pin that or simply iron it and then sew them with a top stitch. Then I lay my apron down, and because it's reversible, it doesn't matter which side is down first. You attach the straps, but you cross over the straps first, and then I like to pin them together. Some people like to actually add a button up there, but then I feel like you'll see the button on one side but not on the other side. All I need to do now is sew the straps together, and that's your apron. As you can see, this is actually really easy. However, if you do have questions, I have also a video in which I'm answering the most common questions that I get. Head over to this video to get more sewing tips, and thank you so much for watching.